Moira Cosmetics has pretty much become the brand that to me represents affordable luxury when it comes to makeup. And I definitely feel that way about a lot of the launches this year in particular. They have snuck in a bunch of new formulas and I wanted to sample a few shades from each of them. So that's what we're going to focus on in this video. They came out with some beautiful kind of nude sparkly glosses. Some of these shades definitely seem like dupes for higher end brands. I have definitely talked about them in both of my dupe videos. So these eyeshadows actually aren't new, but they come in a sort of favorites kit including 4 shadows. These sparkly single shadows should definitely not be slept on. They also came out with new satin chic lipsticks. The packaging on these really impressed me. They have a sort of soft matte finish and a magnetic closure. This packaging to me definitely feels like a step up for Moira in general with all of these new launches. So if you're someone who appreciates not only the formulas of your makeup, but also nice packaging, I think you'd be impressed by this packaging, especially for the price point. They also padded out their Dreamlight highlighter range, and this is one that's really impressed me. They're blinding, kind of sparkly highlights, but surprisingly very wearable. So I'm really excited and happy to see that they've added some new shades to this line. We're going to swatch and try on everything as well as do a little wear test. I purchased these products myself and I do have a discount affiliate code that I'm going to pop up on the screen now. Let's swatch and try on these products. We're going to start off by swatching and trying on the Dreamlight highlighters. These retail for $10 and like I said, I'm very impressed with how these formulas look on the skin. They're definitely intense powder highlights and they do have a bit of sparkle. You can see that it's not a chunky sparkle though, and as I'm working it into the skin, it just gives it a really pretty sheen. This is the shade Daydream, and what I'm really happy to see about this shade is that you don't get a white cast with it. Some of their first kind of lighter iridescent highlights are really pretty, but they do have a cast on me. Okay, the next shade I picked up is called Halo Glow, and honestly, when I swatched and tried this one on, I am not seeing that much of a difference between Halo Glow and Daydream, but if you do, definitely let me know in the comments. Maybe there is a subtle one, I just can't really tell. But just like with Daydream, I didn't have any issues with working it into the skin, and I like that I don't get a white cast with it. It gives me a pretty glow. If you have your eye on these, I'd say probably just pick one shade. I feel like they're similar enough that you're not going to see a huge difference. Here is what both shades I just tried on look like swatched side by side. It looks like Daydream has just maybe a hint more peach, but I don't think that that difference is particularly detectable when I try it on the face. All right, now we're going to dive in to doing some eye swatches. I have tried these Chroma Light shadows from Moira before. I think I recently swatched Summer Dream because it's one of the blue brown duochromes that's a bit of a dupe for some of the other more high-end ones. This is the shade Opal Glazed. It's a really pretty green iridescent shadow. I am really not seeing much of a shift in this one, but it's a beautiful highlighting shade. And the fact that you can get a formula like this for $6 I think is really impressive. As you can see, these shadows are very sparkly in their finish, and I found that the texture is not emollient at all, so I think it's going to last very well on a lot of people's eyelids. Definitely do your base first and use an eye primer because you will get some fallout with these if you don't. The glitter primer that I've been really loving is the Clionadh one that was done in collaboration with Bad to the Brow. This is the shade Aquamarine, and I would describe it as a really pretty silvery green shimmer shade. It is very ethereal. The color of it reminds me of Saltwater Pearl from Clionadh. All right, next we have Lilac Love, and I'm super happy they included this shade in this little gift set. It's a pastel blue purple, and as many of you already know, I love blue purple shadows. You definitely have a duochrome effect with this shadow. And as I'm trying it on, I am definitely thinking to myself, wow, they definitely deliver for $6. I wish I had tried some of these shades sooner, honestly, and I think this gift set is really nice because they seem to include ones that are probably more popular in their line in general. Okay, last but not least, we have the shade Summer Dream, and you have seen me try on the shade before in a couple of my other videos. This is a blue-brown duochrome shade. It's definitely a dupe for a shade like Urban Decay's Solstice, REM Beauty's Fembot, and Half Magic's Blushing Lizard. And stacked up against those other formulas, this one compares very nicely in terms of its intensity and its sparkle. I think that my favorite really has been REM Beauty's Fembot, but this version definitely holds its own. And I know there's going to be some questions about how these wear, so I'm going to show you my wear test at the end. Okay, next we have some new sparkly lip glosses from Moira. I believe that these are brand new. I just want to take a moment for how sleek this packaging is. I picked up the 4 deepest shades, the lightest of which is Sassy. I feel like this one is pretty. It's kind of like a Your Lips but better, but honestly, when I tried this on my lips, it looked a little bit more sheer than is my typical preference. I do think that it would maybe show up a bit better on you if you have a slightly lighter skin tone to me. That being said, I think it would look really nice as a lip combo, especially with a deeper lip liner. Here's what it looks like fully applied. I'm trying on everything on bare lips just so you can get a sense for what every shade looks like on me. The next shade we have is TTYL, and this one is just a little bit deeper. You can see that you get some pretty kind of pinkish reflex throughout. If you're familiar with the Fenty Gloss Bomb formula, I would say that it's not quite as pigmented as a formula like that, and I think the sparkles are a little bit smaller, so that might be a reference point that's helpful to you. And I don't think I've mentioned it yet, but these glosses do retail for $8 a piece if you want to buy them individually. That is a really fair, good price point. There are some drugstore glosses that cost more than that at this point. And next we have the shade Sleek, which is the second to deepest shade in this line. You have a hint of red in this one, and you have a pretty pink and green sparkle throughout. There's something about this shade that immediately reminded me of Fenty's Hot Chocolate Fantasy. I think it's that kind of hint of red that you get in this one. I still think of this as a brown gloss, but you definitely have a sort of reddish undertone. Can you imagine this one paired with a deep brown or a burgundy lip liner? Okay, and just for science, I went ahead and did a swatch comparison with Fenty's Hot Chocolate Fantasy. You do get some similar vibes, but Sleek definitely has more depth, and it does have a bit more burgundy in it. Similar vibes, but not close enough for me to be able to say that they're dupes. Last but not least, we have the shade 2000. This is the deepest sparkly nude gloss in this line. You do get some similar vibes to the shade Sleek that I just tried on before this, but I do think you have more depth in this one, probably the same amount of burgundy. Whenever you have a deep gloss like this, you do have to be a little bit careful that they don't look kind of streaky or patchy. You have to be a bit more intentional with your application. But honestly, this is a gloss that I think I would pair with a lip liner just to avoid some of that fussiness. But honestly, I think this is my favorite out of all 4. Okay, now we are going to dive into the satin lipsticks. Again, these are all nude shades, and I don't know if this is a new formula for Moira. It's my first time trying any lipsticks or glosses from Moira, and I've heard several people raving about it, so I thought it was finally time to take the plunge. They come in 8 shades, and they do have a nice range of light to deep. They retail for $9 a piece, and I know I've already talked about how beautiful the packaging is, but I really like this formula. Also, this is a great shade if you're into grayish tones. All right, the second shade we have is called Millennium. This one has a little bit more depth and definitely more warmth. This is the My Lips But Better type of shade. It's definitely the type of lipstick that I wouldn't have to think about. I could just apply, not use a lip liner or a lip combo, and be totally good to go. Now, these lipsticks I don't think are long-wearing lipsticks, but I don't think that anyone would expect that from a satin formula lipstick. Here's what Millennium looks like fully applied. Okay, the last shade I picked up in this line is called Inspire. It is the deepest of the shades in this line, and like I said, there's 8 total shades. You do have a hint of warm with this one, a slightly kind of red undertone. I really like shades like this, especially if I'm just gonna wear a bold lip and not much on my eyes. Something about this shade is giving Max Film Noir. I know they're different formulas, but just in terms of the depth and the tone of this lipstick. Okay, and then I just wanted to show swatches of 3 of the lip liners I picked up in case you're curious about them. These are wooden pencils that are sharpenable, and they all retail for $5 a piece, so I'm very excited about finding a high quality lip liner for an affordable price point. Okay, and I am going to do a wear test mostly for the highlighter and for the eyeshadow, and I'll be back in several hours. I've had my makeup on for about 6.5 hours now, so I wanted to come back with some wrap-up thoughts, and the only thing that I touched up is the lipstick that I had on. Otherwise, everything else is not touched up at all. Didn't use powder, setting spray, any of that. So first thing is I want to start off with the eyeshadow, and I do want to preface this by saying that, you know, I didn't do my normal sparkle prep because I was just doing swatches on camera. Normally I would use some type of glitter primer with this. So I definitely have a little bit of fallout here, which I think is mostly a result of that. But apart from that, I think that the eyeshadow looks really, really beautiful. Don't see creasing, and it still looks really good. So I think that, you know, these definitely withstood the wear test for me, and I'm just very, very impressed with this formula. Not all of the eyeshadows from Moira, to be perfectly honest, have worked for me. I've tried the potted cream shadows. I even got some pretty decent creasing with the little kind of glitter pots. I don't even know if they make them anymore, but I think at one point they were supposed to be a little bit of a dupe for the lid lusters from Victoria Beckham, but I don't know. I had pretty mixed feelings about that, but I think these are well worth the money. High impact, a lot of sparkle, so really nice. The second thing is I want to talk about these highlighters. I really like the tone of these shades, but I think that these shades are similar enough where you don't need all of them. In terms of the wear, I think that that looks really nice. And like I said, for a sparkly highlighter, I think that these really look nice on the skin. I mean, they're still going to emphasize texture a little bit compared to highlighters that don't have any sparkle, which is a lot of my cream highlighters, and I'm still going to do a video on powder highlighters that don't have sparkle. But this is definitely a formula that I'm going to use more of. I already talked about these in other videos, but these shades especially, I think are beautiful nude shades. I don't think that you need all of them. I think there's too much overlap. Maybe start off with one if you have your eyes on them. I think there's 4 new shades, and I got 2 out of the 4, which is the ones I tried on. Sparkly lip glosses I think are really pretty. Again, I think I would just try a couple. I think, you know, especially for these lighter shades, I thought they would be a little bit more pigmented, but again, that could just be because they're a little light for my skin tone and my preferences. But I preferred the deepest 2 shades in the line for me. And I think that, you know, the packaging on these is really nice. I think these look like more expensive than $8 glosses or $9 glosses. They feel really nice, and the packaging feels elevated. The lip liners I am really excited to play around with more. Now, these aren't the only kind of affordable lip liners on the market. Unearthly sells really, really nice lip liners for, I want to say $6, maybe $7 now. And there's, you know, NYX has some affordable ones, but I think these are really nice. I like wooden pencils that you can sharpen. And I think that, you know, this lasted nicely. I'm wearing the shade Icon and it's still on my lips. I didn't touch it up at all. Like I said, the only thing I touched up was my lipstick because these are satin lipsticks. They're not, you know, they're not going to be transfer proof. They're not going to be the type of lipstick that I would typically want to do a proper wear test with, because I don't think, you know, when you have lipsticks that aren't transfer proof, it's as useful, especially when you're eating and drinking. So, do I think that Moira is bringing luxury at an affordable price point? I do. I don't think that all of their products are wins, but all of the products I tried today, they were. And I think the overall direction that Moira is going is one that I like, in that I think that they are elevating. Even this packaging is a little bit different than their original Dreamlight highlighters. I think that they're elevating and they're not really upping the price point. So in that way, I think they're one of the best affordable makeup brands that bring the highest quality, which is why I talk about them in all of my dupe videos, and why I probably will continue to talk about them in my dupe videos going forward. They also are a brand that's very suited to me, being that they have a lot of kind of sparkly, fun makeup products. I know I tried some non-sparkly products today too, out of curiosity. So that is everything. Let me know what you think of the products that I tried. If you're going to try anything yourself, which things you were most drawn to, which shades you were most drawn to. I didn't try all the shades, but I tried a handful. So hopefully, even if you pick a different shade, you can use those as a reference. As always, I hope you found my video helpful. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.